2/3 and 1/3. So I want you individually to write down which one you think is greater, equal than, if it's greater, equal than, or less than. Write that in the middle, and tell me how you got the answer. It can be bottoms up. You can do what you did to the bottom, to the top, or it can be a math truth. So once you have that, go ahead and stand up. Make sure to write how you got your answer.
Oh, it's on your side. Okay.
Oh, it's double-sided?
That would be weird for Jay, huh?
Yeah. Just stand up.
While you're thinking, I see that Angel and Chloe are writing out either a math truth or something like that. That is just fine. That is absolutely fine. We're giving you've learned a lot of options about how to prove things. Okay. I assume yours is upside down too.
Okay, y'all can go ahead and sit down and hold up your boards so that we can come around and see what you have written down.
You don't have a hands up. Need your bottoms up. Now give me yours. Give me yours. You don't have any reason. That's what a check drawing and test it. Okay, let me see yours. Is that the same denominator? That's
Show you.
a math truth. You gotta show me something.
That is.
You gotta show me something, Dave, okay?
That's right.
Show me the bottoms up.
Yep. You already get checked?
You gotta give us a reason, otherwise we're gonna check it
Right,
wrong.
what you did.
And I guess we'll feel sorry for
Make
you.
sure to write that you did bottoms up. Make sure to write that you did bottoms up.
I don't know, we're about to be a board meeting.
Okay, so did we say that 2/3 was less than, greater than, or equal to 1/3?
Greater.
So what's one way that we could have done this? Somebody raise their hand. Gage, what's one way we could have done this? So Gage did what we do to the bottom, we do to the top, and you did 3 times 1. So 2/3 is bigger. That's one way. Did anybody do it a different way?
Nice, nice, Gage.
Valerie, how'd you do it?
I did bottoms up, so 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 2 is 6, and how you taught me yesterday, because I got confused yesterday by reading, you told me to look at those 2 numbers and see what's going on.
So 6 and 3, so you see 2/3 is bigger. Did anybody do it a different way?
Oh, I love this. I'm coming.
Chloe, how did you do it?
I used it.
So Chloe said she used a math
Yes.
truth. What was your math truth?
If your denominators are the same, then you look at the numerators.
9. So she said if your denominators are the same, which we have the same denominator of 3, right? So she said next, all you have to do is look at the numerator and compare those. Did anybody else do it like that? Angel, Loda, Eli? So all we have to do when we have the same denominator is look at the numerator and compare. Good job. Okay, so you can go ahead and erase your boards. You had another way to do it? Oh, Avril had another way to do it.
I love that.
How did you do it, Avril?
Just showing your board.
So notice that our denominators are the same, and she drew
Hold that.
square and colored in 2 on this side, because we have 2/3, and 1 on this side. And notice that more were filled in on this rectangle with 3. So that's another way you can do it.
I'm gonna pause a minute on that. Be careful with your drawing. That comes from someone who has no art skills, and here's why. Here's why. Watch my food. Be careful. Half?
Yes.
Half?
Yeah.
But which one seems bigger?
The first one.
So be careful when you decide to use your own artistic ability to do that. It can, see it? It can skew, which means confuse, your perception of that. Coming from someone who I like to see it, I get that, but I can also goof up what I'm thinking about too doing that. I'm gonna go ahead and done with that. There you go.
Yes. Okay, so you can go ahead and erase your boards if you haven't already.
Good job.
Great job. And we're gonna do,
I had a different way.
you had a different way?
Kind of.
We're good. Next, one more, we're gonna go to the next problem, you know.
Okay.
Go to the next problem. But you raise your hand up, you raise your hand up.
Next problem is we're gonna have 7/8.
So we're gonna come.
So write that down. And then our other fraction is gonna be 5 tenths. So write these two down. And so when you have that written down, I want you to do what you need to do to determine, to figure out which one is greater. And then circle the one that's greater. But you need to have an explanation. You need to show how you got your answer and how you determine which one is bigger. So don't just circle the one that's bigger. Make sure you have something written down or your work shown. Okay, so once you're done, go ahead and raise your board up for us to, for me and Miss White to come around and check.
Are you done, Emily?
From that video,
I really like what you did. Don't erase your board. Good job. You did good job. You can erase your board. It's more than half. So you notice that 5 tenths was 1/2. So you can erase. Everything else good? Okay, so we have this fraction, these two fractions, and we are trying to determine which one is greater. So on the count of 3, shout out which one is greater. 1, 2, 3. 7/8. Awesome. So we determined that this one was greater than 5 tenths. And so what's one way that somebody determined that 7/8 was greater than 5 tenths? Emily? No? You didn't raise your hand? Valerie, what did you do? So Valerie did bottoms up again. So she did 8 times 5 equals 40. And 7 times 10 equals
70.
70. Awesome. So that's the correct way to do it, and we see that 70 is greater than 40. So is there another way that somebody did it? Eli?
There you go.
How did you do it, Eli?
Well, I started by finding similar fractions or different fractions.
Okay.
With 5/10 equals 1/2, and 1/2 equals 4/8, and we got 7/8. So that would mean, well, on my board I got an arrow from the 4/8
So you drew an
to
arrow back to the 7/8.
7/8, and it had an equal in the middle crossed out.
Awesome. So Eli, and I think Jade did this too, is they noticed that 5/10 is equal to 1/2.
That's good.
And so then Eli said, well, 1/2 is also equal to 4/8. And now, if we compare 7/8 and 4/8, we have the same denominator. And so what we did last time, which Chloe did with our math truth, is when we have the same denominator, what do?
You check
You compare the numerator. So now he says, okay, now all we have to do is compare 4/8 and 7/8, and we see that 7/8 is bigger than 4/8. So that's a great job, Eli. Really
That's
good.
exactly what Mr. Foltzek was doing over here at Grandma's table 2 days ago, yesterday, no, whenever.
Yeah.
When he was telling you guys about that common denominator. That's a 5th grade skill that we just gave you a little taste of. But if you can understand, look, I know that 5/10 is half, well heck, I can make it the same denominator and just say 4/8. You've got it in the bag, that's simple then. That's good common denominator work. That's 5th grade skills.
Great job.
That's good.
So you can go ahead and erase your boards. Clear them off. And we'll do another one. Alright, 9/10. And we want to determine which one is greater again, so we'll circle which one is greater. We'll do
Scary 3-digit number.
what?
Every kid gets scared when they see 3 digits. It's like your mom giving you the stink eye.
So after you have those written down, we're gonna do the same thing we did on the last one. I want you to circle which one's greater and then explain your reasoning. So show us or write down why you got that one to be greater. So make sure you explain your work.
Why?
So show why.
Why? No, you're going to write it. You have to explain it.
And once you finish and have your explanation and you show your work, go ahead and raise your board so we can come around and check it.
Okay, remember, just because it's a 3-digit number doesn't bigger numbers don't necessarily mean larger amounts when it's a fraction. Because remember, the bigger the denominator, the smaller the chunk. Yeah, but those numerators aren't the same. That's only a math truth if the numerators are the same. show me. And I like that, you show me what you did there. No, we don't times those numbers. You've never been told the times to talk about it. Are you doing, you do the bottom, you do the top? Show me.
Show your work some way. Instead of just guessing. So think of all the ways that we can do this. All the ways that what you do to the bottom.
That's not where you do the bottom, you do the top. You never did anything with those two numbers. When you do where you do the bottom to the top, you ask yourself, how does 10 get to this number? These two numbers, you never do anything with. You go from left to right. Like bottoms up is from here up. When you do the bottom has 10, get to 100. Oh, Dad, have you been asked to check on your teeth? No. Oh. Okay. But 10 times 107 is 100. Now, 100 times 9 is 90, that's correct. But what's 10 times 107? That's where bottoms up is a little bit smelling because we may not have the multiplication skills yet. This is a good example where bottoms up is gonna get a little bit boogery because, you don't have many of you don't have the multiplication skills yet to figure out what 10 times 107 is. Some of you might. That's why you gotta come up with a different plan. Can you, what you do to the bottom, you do to the top? Can you, is there anything greater than 1? Can you gotta look at all those options. You cannot always think bottoms up. You gotta come up with different plans. We have maybe 3 or 4. No, you go ahead and start. We have 3 or 4 that they're just, all they have is bottoms up, and they're missing this because they're not looking at other options.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and take a look at this. So somebody that's finished, if you're not finished, I would recommend looking up here too to see what they did. How would you determine which one's greater? Gauge? Huh? Yeah, Gauge, show me what you did. So, all eyes on Gauge.
I said, what you do at the top, you do at the bottom. So 10 times 10 equals 100, but 9 times 10 equals only 90, but 90 and 107, they still can't be bigger, but 107 is bigger, so it would be 176.
Awesome, good job. So I saw a lot of people start with bottoms up, and they said, okay, 100 times 9, that's 900. But then when you try to do 10 times 107, that gets really tricky. So then Gabe went to his next step and was like, okay, what can I do next? Okay, well, I can do what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So 10 times 10 equals 100, and 9 times 10 equals 90. So now we say, okay, 90 is less than 107, so 107 is greater than 9/10. 107 over 100 is greater than 9/10. Did anybody else do it a different way? Abril?
So yesterday when we were playing this game,
That's fine, you're fine.
the numerator was bigger than my so that means it's bigger than my whole. So when
So she
the
says it's correct.
numerator is
What
bigger
she's saying
than
is
the denominator, it's the one fraction.
Yeah, so Abril said yesterday when y'all were rolling the dice and playing the game and writing your fractions down, she noticed that she was getting fractions with the numerator greater than denominator. And when we have that, that means, like Avril said, it's greater than 1 whole. And so she said, well, 107 over 100 is greater than 1 whole, but 9 over tenths is not. So she instantly knew that 107 over 100 is greater. And so what I saw some people doing is they were saying, okay, well, 9 goes into 10 one time, so then they were putting a 1, but this is not right. You can only do a mixed number when your numerator is greater than your denominator. So that's the only time you can do a mixed number. If the numerator is less than the denominator, you cannot do a mixed number. It doesn't work. So I think Valerie put on hers. You want to come up here and show what you did for 107 over 100?
What I did was I saw that 107 is, the numerator was over the denominator. So how close does 100 get to 107? Only one time, because if you count by hundreds, 100, 200, that's over. You can only go one time. So what? And then how much is left over? It'd be 7 100ths. And 9/10 is less. So 9/10 is less than 100. 7 100.
Great job.
That's
So
good.
so she did her mixed number, and notice that 100 goes into 107 one time, and then we have 7 hundredths left over. And so now we see that 1, this number, this fraction is greater than 1. So we automatically know that it's greater than 9/10 because 9/10 is less than 1. So anytime we have a fraction with the numerator greater than the denominator, we can do a mixed number. But if it's not greater, the numerator is not greater than the denominator, we cannot do a mixed number. And so when we're looking at fractions, this is something you can look for. You can look and see, well, is my numerator greater than the denominator for this fraction? It is. Is my numerator greater than my denominator for this fraction? It's not. So this is less than 1. So anytime we have that, it would be less than 1. Rebecca, did you do it a different way? Kind of? No? What'd you do?
I just put 100 because 107 is bigger than 100, so you would need 2 rectangles, and on 9/10 you only need 1 rectangle.
Awesome.
So 107 100 is greater than 9/10.
Awesome, that's correct. So you notice that 107 is greater than 100, so it'd be bigger than 1. Awesome. So do we see that? So that's something to look for when we have a fraction that we can make into a mixed number. We know that it's greater than a fraction that cannot be made into a mixed number. So don't get that confused. Don't try to make a mixed number where you can't make a mixed number. So you can go ahead and erase your boards if you have it, and we'll go on to the next
Do
question.
you wanna do one more question? Do you wanna do one more, Mr. Polsek?
Sure.
Okay, no, if you, I was out of the room for a little bit. Have you covered what we feel like they need to have covered?
I think so. I'll do
Okay.
one more because I have an idea.
You have an idea? Okay, good. So let's do one more, and then we're gonna write some test tricks up there before we start.
Awesome. So,
So he wants to torture you one more time.
so go ahead and write the fraction.
Here we go.
We'll write 5/8,
Let's see what he does this time.
and we'll go 5/7. And so I want you to tell me if this is less than, greater than, or equal to.
Okay, here we go.
So tell me, look at these two fractions, compare them, and see which one is less than. If it's less than, greater than, or equal to, and fill that in your box. But make sure to show your work. Make sure to write your work and write how you did.
And this is
How you got your answer.
You have to explain. There's no such thing as, oh, to the left, to the right, to the equal. And they're done. They have to tell us one of those reasons. I mean, they have a lot of strategies.
Okay,
Something on the cliff.
gotcha. Well, and he told me, when I said, what was our rule for when the makers merged? She said, it's greater than, so is this one. So
That makes me cry.
she had it, she just didn't.
Just didn't.
Take the question.
You have a question? Don't you wonder if I teach them? That's a good question. The smaller the denominator, the bigger the chunk. Yes, that's a math truth, every word on there.
Okay, I
Which,
just-
those aren't real things.
Yeah. So I was just making sure because that's.
Yes, that's easy.
So once you,
Yeah. There's another end of that, you know, the rest of that, right? Okay, you don't need to write it, just so you know that.
raise your boards once you got transferred and you have your explanation written down.
Okay, careful with those drawings though, okay? Careful with those drawings. I don't have an answer, Oscar. And whatever your, what, does your tooth hurt?
No,
There's nothing coming out of it. It is going to. So it must have wouldn't help. Let me see, you need an answer. You have your bottoms up, I see it, but you need your answer. Okay, you gotta be careful with that shebang, right?
yeah.
See, they don't have that complete.
And for almost everything.
It's not the math truth. There, the math truth that Mrs. White and I are seeing, you did not finish the math truth. You didn't finish what we wrote in the resource, in the comp book. You didn't finish it.
Because you did bottoms up.
That's a nice default until we get ugly numbers.
So be ready because you're playing the first.
Let's go ahead and start this, Mr. Falsack, because they have the start of the math truth, but they're not remembering the end of the math truth.
Okay, so. That's perfect, Valerie. Okay, so, does somebody wanna start explaining to me what they did? Lodi, what'd you do? Okay, bottoms up. So that's a go-to, so
It works.
Lodi did bottoms up, 8 times 5 is what?
Hmm?
40. And 7 times 5? 35. So which one is less? 40 is less than 35?
No, 35
So 5 eighths is less than.
You're doing halves, aren't you?
So, I saw another way that people wrote it, is they said
I asked her, she
that
missed it.
we have the same numerator, right? So we have the same numerator, so now we compare denominators.
Get Angie up here.
You wanna come up here and show what you did?
Angie had the first part of the math truth there, and I said, you know the rest of it, because the rest of it
Is what it,
is the most important part.
you wanna use your marker this way?
I thought she was just gonna shut me off this time, so she could walk this way.
You left.
I did a math truth.
Yeah, write it so we can read it, girl. Just gonna write time.
Come on, girlfriend, get that ring up there, if, don't get smaller. If anything, get bigger. If your focus isn't on Angie, it should be. Nice focus, holy cow. It's amazing. It's like they're scared or something. Pause right there, Angie. That's where you all stopped.
Yeah.
Zip, zap, zope, you should not stop there. If the numerators are the same, just look at the denominators. No, no, no. Go on, Angie. The best is yet to come of that math truth. Do you remember the rest now? Did it change your answer? Yeah, it's going to change your life.
I know.
It's gonna
that.
change
After I did the
your
other thing.
answer.
Got it.
The smaller the denominator,
The bigger the
the
chunk.
bigger the chunk. I can't believe you forget that. You guys give me heck about using chunk all the time, and then it's in a math truth and you don't even talk about it.
It's condo.
The bigger the piece. Yep.
Awesome, great job, Angie.
Yeah, she wrote chunk.
So like Ms. Conda said, many of you just wrote the first part and compared, said, okay, we have the same numerator, let's compare the denominator. Well, 8 is bigger than 7, so that means 5/8 is bigger than 5/7, but that's not right.
Mm.
So we have to remember the whole math truth in that the smaller the denominator, the bigger the piece or the chunk, the bigger you're taking out. And so that would mean 5/7 is greater than 5/8. So good job.
Mr. Volpsek, would you put up there test tricks, and we're gonna start a list of just some testing tricks for this bad boy here. We're gonna make a list, test tricks. You guys have no idea what pressure
Yes.
there is in teaching. I think Mr. Volpsek's feeling it too. You notice how they echo what I say? Like when I say chunk, they all say chunk. When I say, what did Valerie say? Oh, how many were left over from 100 to 107? They echo you. That's not pressure, because if I say something wrong or incorrect, you guys echo that in public sometimes. So yeah. Okay, test trick. Number 1, Mr. Volpsek, what is one strategy you could try to do? Bottoms up. Number 1, try bottoms up.
Where do we put that?
You're not putting it anywhere. We're gonna watch Mr. Volpsek spell these words. Bottoms up. You can try it. Number 2, if that doesn't work,
What you do that?
what else can you try? Gauge.
What you do the top, you do the bottom.
What you do to the top, you do to the bottom. Yes, Eli. He's on his way. Okay, so, Mr. Volpsek, can you finish that conversation?
Yes.
I'm going to take these out. This is your test, and you're gonna do them tonight, and the book can go home, we're done. Okay, all right, get your stuff.
Okay, so what's one more thing? What's another one that we can do? Angel? Math truths.
Math truths.
Can we look at my combo?
The comfort is there for your test, yep. Those teachers say no, but I'm a nice kind of person. Till January. Math
Can
truths.
somebody
There
give me an
is-
example of a math truth? Valerie?
Like how we just did right now, like the numerators were the same, so just look at the denominators,
Awesome.
but the bigger the denominator, the smaller the chunk. The smaller the denominator, the bigger.
Yep,
So,
and those math
awesome.
truths are in your comp book.
Okay.
This is so easy, just pop it in my.
There is one more thing you can do. And it deals with the 107 over 100. There is one more thing you can do. Jake,
If the numerator is bigger than the denominator, it's over one whole, and then if it's compared to less than one whole, that means 107 over 100 is greater than.
so I would just write check to see if they're greater than 1. Just check those fractions, because if there's one greater than 1 and one's not, your brain can rest a second, because it's a done deal. That would be the one I would check first, even though we have a number 4. That would be the little clincher I would check first, is that one, heck, you have it done,
When we were doing
okay?
groups over here, we called it mixed numbers.
That's what it's called. Mrs. Conda's gonna start calling it mixed numbers here in a little bit,
Mixed numbers are
okay? When you guys take the test, you're gonna be in different sections of the room. One, because Mr. Falchuk is supposed to be working with a group of students at all times. And so he's gonna have a group, and then, are you gonna tell us other 2 teachers what we're doing?
Sure. I just had to
he has it all planned out, and I'm sitting here.
Roaming.
yeah.
So I'll be with one group, helping you go over your test and read through it, and then, can I do 3 groups?
Sure.
Okay, well, so then there'll be another group with Miss White, and so there'll be 3, and Miss White, you'll just be kind of there with them, working with them through it and answering any questions they had. And then Miss Condell is just gonna let you roam around the room, and if anybody needs help, they can ask you, or you can get on them if they're not doing something right.
Give me that, cause I don't sit still very well.
Yeah.
Mrs. White, where are you gonna land?
I don't know, back here
Right,
is fine.
that sounds good, that sounds good. You have your comp book, you have a teacher to read it to. If we reteach, then you're gonna have to redo this, so we are not here to teach today. We are here to read the question to you, and then you're independent. Mr. Falsek just reviewed everything. Your test is on page 111. Listen carefully while Mr. Falsek tells you where and whom you're headed with.
Okay, so Pamela, Gage, and Anna Lee, you will be with Miss White. Oscar,
Oh, I heard she did.
Sophia, Oakley, and Lodi, you'll be with me.
I'm roaming, so you can have it here, obviously.
So I'll be, so Oscar, Sophia, Oakley, and Lodi, I will be at Miss Fonda's desk. And then Jade, Chloe, Abril, Chloe's down here. So Jade, Abril, Angel, Rebecca, Angie, and Valerie, you'll be independent.
Okay.
That means you're not a fire. Now, Rebecca, you've been gone for the day. If you need me to read a question, okay, so here we go. You're in your book, page 111. You're working independently if you're in my group. Close up your marker. You're doing 111, 112, and 113.